Hello, folks. Welcome back to On the Barricades, the special edition where I, Yuri Smouder of One Plus One at Yuri Muckraker at YouTube, joins the Barricades to do our annual, and we hope we make this a regular thumbs up, thumbs down with me joining Maria and Boyan. And so in this segment, Maria, what is your thumbs up and thumbs down that you want to discuss to our audience?
Hello, thank you for having me. It's great to be here again in this special edition. My thumbs up is to the union Sanitas, the union for doctor, nurses, and auxiliary personnel in hospitals. They went on strike demanding their wages to be paid. I have to explain what the situation is. The Social Democrats back in 2017 decided to raise, and it was a wonderful thing that they raised the salaries of doctors, nurses, but they said they are going to raise the wages of everyone. I mean, the cleaning personnel, the ones that help around the accountancy, and all the administrative personnel, and so on and so forth. Because, of course, doctor and nurses are important, but equally important are the rest of the personnel that make a public hospital run properly. So the idea was that it would have been a much heavy burden on the budget to raise altogether all the salaries for all these categories of health workers. So they decided to raise first the wages of nurses and doctors, and then it would have been a due date to raise they sign a contract saying that in 2 weeks' time or in 3 weeks' time they are going to raise the wages of the other personnel that works in public hospitals in Romania, and they haven't done that. And of course, it is unbelievable that the national liberals that are in power right now, and they formed an alliance with Union Save Romania. This sounds very neo-evangelical, but this is a political party, a right-wing political party that is actually one of the most progressive in terms of cutting ties with the Romanian Orthodox Church and cutting its financing, but they are very pro-libertarian, so they are on the same page very much with the national liberals. So
So like
my thumbs
like
up.
fiscal conservative slash
Yes,
neoliberal
of course, of course.
neoliberalism.
Exactly. In economic terms, they are one of the same libertarians. So my thumbs up is to the workers trying to get their rights to be respected according to the law that was signed back in 2017. Now, I have a lot of thumbs down. So you have to be aware of the fact that Romania has to overcome now one of the worst periods, and it's most severely hit by the pandemic. I think there was a day when we ranked like number 5 in the world in terms of deaths due to coronavirus, and I have to explain why is it tragic. Is it tragic because, well, it's tragic by itself, but I have to make it relate to other data, and the data is simple. On a daily basis in Romania, out of different causes, and not when we have a pandemic, so die like 700 people. Now, just imagine that we had days in Romania where we had 400 people die due to COVID and COVID complications. So, more than 60% of the cases and death were. Oh, so Boyan is showing right now. Yay, we rank number one. Just look.
Wow.
We rank number one. We made it, guys. We are number one because we have this provincial complex that we are never number one. Look, we made it. We even are higher than India or Boyan. We can hear you, but thanks so much for
Yeah,
this.
right. I just wanted to say that it's right that like you're the first one, so I understand the nation, or I don't know, those people that are so concerned about not being the first, that they
First,
could now
now they
be
have their
satisfied, right?
chance. Now they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
their chance. I mean, and I want to take also here I had a quarrel online with a feminist, Megan Murphy, who said, "Oh, but you don't have 300 cases on a daily basis. Oh, but you are lying." No, I'm not. Look at the data. I mean,
14 October 14th, 304 people dead
so
from coronavirus.
from
So
coronavirus. So
yeah.
I would have expected somebody like Megan Murphy, who may be branded and maybe, very controversial, but at least I expected her to be an honest journalist and to look at the data. Then the data is shows the full-scale tragedy that we live in Romania. What can I say? We have ambulances staying and forming a queue in front of the emergency hospital because there are no beds in the ICU units. And on top of everything, we had two fires in Romanian hospitals during the past 2 years. One in Piatra Neamț, the eastern part of the country, and now one. We had one a couple of weeks ago in Constanța, one of the major cities in also in the east. And there you had people dying because the hospital actually caught fire. Why is that? Because the hospitals are and were built during Ceausescu's time. Okay, they are a legacy of the socialist period, and as strong as that and as resilient as these buildings might be, they were not built to last for so long under such a heavy pressure. And we had situations that, for instance, in Timișoara, the hospitals asked the fire workers to station their equipment and firefighters just in case a tragedy like this might strike. So if you're not dead by coronavirus, you have a high chance of dying in a fire in the hospitals in Romania. The situation is absolutely horrendous, and we had patients being taken to Hungary because we are no longer able to take care of them. And if you call right now the emergency service, you would wait for an hour and a couple of hours just somebody to answer, and who knows how many hours or days for somebody to come at your door. So basically, the emergency health system, is overwhelmed and way over its ability. Now, why is this? Because you don't get a catastrophe like this, just like that. I mean, there are causes, very important causes that led us here. First of all, the vaccination campaign. I mean, we have this Megan Murphy, feminist journalist, thinker that said, "Oh, but when you say abortion should be free and legal, you should also, because it is your body, your choice." This is the same case this is the same case when you talk about vaccines. Well, it is not, because while having an abortion, I do not risk infecting I don't know, dozens of people. If I don't get a vaccination, then the risk of spreading the virus and getting a severe form of the illness and ending up in an ICU unit, it's much higher. So I'm placing a burden on each and everyone. Besides the philosophical question, the idea here is that unfortunately, the vaccination campaign was a complete disaster. A complete disaster. They did not invest enough in communication efforts. The vaccination campaign is being managed by the army, by the Romanian army. I mean, and this is very, in Romania, I'm laughing because in Romania this is so common, because we invest so much in the army, secret services, and the police, and not in hospitals and education, that this is, according to what happens in general in Romania. This is not something surprising, but it was a catastrophe in terms that they did not invest more. And now what do? I mean, our dear president and prime minister and all the rest. I mean, we have only 30% of the population vaccinated, but we have vaccines for everybody, but people refuse to get vaccinated. So it is not a question of lacking vaccines. We have plenty of it, more than enough, but 70% of the population simply is not willingly, oh, uh, willing to to accept vaccination. Now, why is that? Well, Boyan just showed us here a perfect example why.
Right. And
Well, the
exactly.
3D
Why did
networks.
Romania's vaccination campaign derail after such a good start? So apparently you had a good start. I didn't even know that.
Well,
So
we had a wonderful start because people wanted to get vaccinated. And my husband works in IT, and he's a computer, wizard, and he knows how to program people. And he was very much, asked by a lot of family and friends to help them with the platform, with the online platform. But once the people that were willing to get a vaccine, once that ended, the other part of Romania was completely reluctant. And what was the solution of the government? Just to say, look at these stupid idiots. They are to be blamed. They are the source of evil in Romania. They are the ones that drag us down. And this has been going on for decades in Romania. First, we had what it's called, maybe it will be funny for you to hear it,
but what
is
was actually going on for decades?
I'm going to explain.
Uh,
We always had a scapegoat. And the main, idea to stay in power and to get power was to find the scapegoat. It was like a game the past 3 decades, at least for right wingers, but for other politicians as well, was this game of who finds the best scapegoat, who finds the most credible scapegoat. And first we had, it's called the sad communist legacy here in Romania. I'm translating it word by word. So we had
sad
this
communist legacy.
a sad communist legacy that was to blame for everything. And
But
the
that's so
communist
strange that they would attribute the word sad to it, like sad. They would
yes,
just play with,
that,
with emotions in such a cheap manner.
exactly.
Like say, it's
The
not drastic, it's
sad,
not bad, it's not destructive, it's sad. It's
yes,
sad.
And
the sad communist
so,
legacy.
and the
That
system,
was
the system has only been gone for 30 years, but we're still going to blame it. But okay.
And it's still
of
very
course,
sad.
of
It's still
course.
very sad. Yeah.
And then we had the communist mentality that is just preventing us from becoming this very slick capitalist,
Wait. Hold on, hold on. You want to tell me that there are people trying to explain that there is communist mentality, whatever it's supposed to mean,
of
that is
course.
responsible partially or for the whole of it, responsible for the lack of vaccinations? Is that what?
Of course, and
Okay,
you have
okay.
to
Well, that
understand
explains it
that
all. That explains
communism
it
in
all.
Romania is like this panacea. It's like this
It's the
wonderful
ultimate
medicine,
argument. The
the
ultimate
ultimate
argument.
argument,
Communism.
and
Like if you
such
can't
that
say anything, communism, and then the discussion
exactly.
ends. That this is
And
like, yeah.
it is very interesting how that got into the mentality of common people, because I get people who have authoritarian bosses in private companies, and they say, oh, but these are such communist managers, and we have that in
Communist
Romania.
managers.
Communist
Communist
managers.
managers.
Exactly.
Wow. Wow.
Because
Wow. Wow.
there is a complete overlap in Romania between authoritarianism and communism. And whenever
Mhm.
somebody is authoritarian, oh, this communist is such a communist. This is
I see.
the
Okay. Okay.
common understanding of communism in Romania. And
Oh
now
Lord.
the second scapegoat that functioned perfectly was the social democrats that were corrupt, were the embodiment of corruption and the destruction of the society. That was the
Mm.
second scapegoat. And the third one was the electorate of the social democrats, that is formed by stupid people who do not understand that the true way to progress for Romania is to adopt hardcore libertarian regulations and laws, and to be very much right wing. Okay,
Right, right. Which sounds perfectly
so
logical because all those people that are not that, or the voters for the social democrats, they're just gonna die of hunger, and then only the elite, the best of the creme de la creme of the society is gonna be there, and then
we actually don't laugh, because we actually have one quite influential journalist that's been around, like this public figure. He's the patriarch of television commentators, and who said that right now there's so many people die of coronavirus because most of them haven't got the vaccination, and that means that the IQ will rise in Romania because a lot of stupid people die. So this is a very good thing, actually.
okay, okay. So it's
Jesus.
wow, wow. So this is really something, and he's right wing, and at the same time, when I speak about abortions, or when Maria speaks about or our friends and comrades around the world speak about abortions, they would attack us that we're eugenic, or what? Like, is this
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
yeah,
Yes, yes,
that
that's
yes.
like,
exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking,
yeah,
wow,
I
dude,
don't
that
know
guy
how to
that
pronounce
guy
this
has
word
quite a
properly.
eugenics point of view. But,
Yeah,
like,
eugenic,
that's
and they would
exactly what I was
accuse us
thinking.
of doing that. Like, this is a perfect example. I mean, they are genuinely thinking that, and they are attributing this to us, which is like, projection 110%, and
Exactly.
lie, of
Now,
course.
let me explain how this function right now, because right now the government says it is not our fault. Look, we are
Of
the
course,
victims
of
here.
course.
People are stupid, and they are so stupid they do not deserve such bright politicians like us.
Oh,
The
of
people
course.
is to be blamed because they are stupid and backwards and they do not want vaccination. We offer that to them and they do not want it. What can we do? I
Yeah,
mean, you knew right from the beginning that people in Romania are conservatives. I told you that Friedrich Eber conducted the research, and 95% of Romanians says that they believe in God, and 44% say they pray on a daily basis. This is the
yeah, yeah. But
Romanian
wait, wait.
society. If you don't like it, why go into politics? Stay home. If you don't like your
Yeah,
own
watch
people,
Netflix. You're right. Yeah, but
if
I
you
want to
don't
ask another.
like it, I mean, come on, nobody forced you to go there
That's
and
that's
become a
true.
politician. Or
That
if you see that the people are so reluctant in accepting you, are so as you say, stupid, why don't you resign?
Yeah,
Why
but
don't you
not only
resign?
this, it's not only that. Look, I mean, there's a question of responsibility here, which I'm afraid people, particularly in our cultural circles, like in Eastern Europe, are not really prepared to confront, because there's a lot of speak, and this is something that is particularly irritating for me in our cultures, that people don't are not able to distinct between responsibility and guilt. And it's not the same thing, because it might be the direct the it might be that the person X, Y, or Z is guilty of not getting a vaccination or something, because they are ignorant, or because they are prejudiced, or because they it might be so that the direct guilt is to the direct blame is there, but the responsibility for the whole thing is on the shoulders of those who run the country. So regardless of whether you think that your voters or the voters of some other party are stupid, or whatever, you remain the person responsible, and it is your fault. I mean, you don't get to say it's not my fault. Everything that happens in this country is your responsibility, including the people dying, including those who are vaccinated and don't die, and including everything that happens. So regardless of whether people are ignorant, or whether you think they are, or whether they are religious or not, you are there. It's your country. I mean, you run it. The government is in your hands. Make it good. If you think people are ignorant, educate them. Okay, go ahead and educate them. Where were you
And
for the
that's a
last 20, 30, or for
actually, and actually, that's a perfect segue, because I want to make sure that we get Boyan in. So so Boyan, before we get to your thumbs up and thumbs down, so Maria, so your thumbs up is for the hospital workers going on a strike, which actually even includes cleaners and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
all power to the people. But but your thumbs down is for the Romanian government and their terrible, terrible response to coronavirus, and them saying, "Hey, not our fault. The electorate is just too the electorate is just too stupid to
so
not
go rule
trust
somewhere else. Go rule where
vaccines."
the electorate is
Exactly.
smart. It will see if they're going to elect you. Because I
Exactly.
mean, it's such a self-indicting things to say. I mean, the electorate is stupid, yet the electorate has chosen you. Like, isn't this paradoxical? Like,
So Boyan,
Yeah, okay, okay. Just one
yeah,
last
Maria.
thing. On top of everything, we have a political crisis because the union between the evangelical, they are not evangelicals, but they have a name that sounds like an evangelical organization. So the Union Save Romania and the National Liberals split over the firing of the Ministry of Health, and on September 1st we started to experience an ongoing political crisis, and right now we have it was struck down from power Florin Câțu and his government, and we are waiting for the forming of a new government. And who knows, maybe elections if a second government is still not approved by the parliament. And on
So the
top of
government's actually
everything
fallen
else,
now.
yes, and on top of
No
everything else,
government, no healthcare system, no nothing.
so I feel
Yes.
like I'm in some sort of train that goes somewhere and nobody's at the wheel. This is the
Right,
situation.
right, and it can't
So,
end well. It
Boyan,
can't end well.
Boyan, before we run out of time, what are your thumbs up, thumbs down?
Oh, there were so many thumb downs recently that I observed that it's a difficult selection to make. What do you actually want to offer here to our audience? But
And I
well,
just and I, and yeah, and I just want to say, in terms of the ongoing coronavirus crisis, that is definitely a topic that we definitely have to save for another for another day. But I've been but yeah, in terms of coronavirus and the responses of everyone and anyone, a whole lot of thumbs down. But anyway,
oh yeah,
continue.
oh yeah, oh yeah. But this should tell you something, that it's a systemic problem. It's not, because when you look at it globally, you will easily see that countries like China or Vietnam or those which are not necessarily not capitalist, like like those two that I mentioned, but or Cuba, right? But also those countries with more of a collectivist culture embedded in their societies, they react better to this kind of thing. And even when you compare the let's say the attitude of the medics in Poland and Russia, for example, then you will see that the Polish medics, because that's the paradigm that the society operates with, they would initially say like, oh, we will only treat patients with COVID, or we'll stay over time only if we get paid for it, which is like a perfectly legitimate position, of course, because they in the final aftermath, so many medics have died of coronavirus because there was no protective equipment and so on and so forth, and because of the reactions of the government, and because of the organization or disorganization of the hospitals or the entire healthcare system. That's all true. But when you compare it, for example, to Russia, which I remember because I read the Russian media, and there was a huge rush on the part of the medics, also those that were not fully medics. I mean, students in medical universities all over Russia, they were rushing to help as volunteers. A whole hospital was built in the periphery of Moscow, a super modern one where,
Oh
so
wow!
yeah, we're talking, and within, well, not weeks but months, but we're talking about a completely different attitude, okay? And I think this does play a role. It's something that has been not really been part of the analysis, like how different societies have reacted to it, regardless of the very
Yeah,
figure.
I mean, I had no idea about that story because all we ever hear about Russia is negative.
Yeah, of course, and that they eat children and put in particularly babies and stuff, right? Of course. But this is, I'm just giving it as an example that there are certain elements in this general puzzle that are not being discussed, and I think they do deserve to be discussed. So not only economic, but also cultural and sociological, if you like. So when it comes to Poland, I want to say that it's just thumbs down all the time and it's been like that for I don't know how many for how many months. In the past, I used to have some, well, I wouldn't say sympathy for the current government, because of course there is no way that a Marxist could have any kind of sympathy for Catholic right-wing fundamentalists. But I did defend that government a couple of times, okay, because they actually passed through certain solutions, particularly in the social sphere, that made sense, and they were favorable for the working class. So I will support anything favorable for the working class, regardless of who's going to take that step. But now I got to tell you that despite the fact that I don't react emotionally to politics, and I'm against emotional reactions to politics, I'm for rational kind of Marxist stoicism, if I could say so. I have to say that what they were doing and what they have been doing over the last couple of weeks and a couple of months is something that's so morally impermissible, so violent and so brutal and so horrific, so hair-raising, that even if tomorrow they pass through some kind of law that every person in need will get 5,000 euros, or will be getting 5,000 euros for the next year every month, I will not vote for them, and I will I will tell everybody not to do that, because the most horrendous, absolutely, you know, it's not even disgusting, it's like gut wrenching for me, was what they were doing on the Polish Belarusian border, which is, this migrant question,
Mm,
and of
mhm.
course everything, and the West likes that everything is blamed on Lukashenko, and that's partially correct, because Lukashenko is trying to spark a humanitarian crisis on the eastern border of the European Union and on the borders of Poland, Latvia, and Lithuania, and of course he is to be blamed. But then, if you have, and if you, that's the standpoint here in Europe. Like, he's a bad, evil dictator, and then you obviously expect bad things from him, right? So he's doing a bad thing right now, and you are supposed to react how? As like the opposite, not do the bad thing, right? You're supposed to do the good thing, and the good thing and the smart thing, of course, would be to receive those people and to engage in negotiations with the rest of the European Union, particularly with Germany, and of course other countries like France, or the West, basically. Okay, to start discussing how are we going to distribute those people that are obviously migrants which want to get into Europe. And for Poland, it would be no problem to do this, because those people who are pressing, who are creating that pressure, okay, alongside the border with Belarus, they don't want to stay in Poland. Maybe some of them want to, but it's like, most of them want to go to Germany, to Netherlands, to some other countries where the communities of I don't know, Iraqi communities, or other from other Arab states are strong, and where they want to go, because they want to feel more like, safely. So it would be no problem. I mean, they don't want to stay in Poland, so it would really be no problem to receive them, and then to start distributing all those migrants according to some agreement that could have potentially been struck. But instead of that, Poland reacted exactly the way that Lukashenko expected they're going to react. So, like, they're flexing their muscles, like, we're going to build the wall, we're not going to let the migrants get in. The Polish border has to be safe, and they kept repeating that the Polish border has to be safe. Yet people are dying on that border, and have been dying for the last weeks. Quite recently, a 16-year-old person died there, and they were pushed back, which is a completely illegal procedure from the standpoint of the international law, because what you're doing by pushing back, quote unquote, is you're trafficking people. That's what you're doing, regardless of whether you're a border guard person, or whether you're just a private criminal.
Isn't it
So,
safe to say? But isn't it safe to say that Poland is also complicit in this?
of course, absolutely
In all
complicit.
this, because Poland, which is a member of NATO, is trying to overthrow the government of Alexander Lukashenko,
Hmm.
and whether he's a Democrat or not, hey, if you're violating a country's sovereignty, that country has the
Right.
right to, by any means, stay on to power to avoid a coup. And so these people are fleeing from from political meddling, and Poland is a partner in crime to this, because Poland is a member of NATO, and these people who are fleeing, thinking like, oh, we want to go to the wonderful
Oh yeah, oh
members of
yeah,
the
but also
European Union, they're being met with
guns, basically, or walls, or something like that, but also pushbacks. I mean, those pushbacks, this is a particularly disgusting case, morally disgusting, because this 16-year-old boy, he was sick, okay, he was spitting blood, and they still, instead of taking him to a hospital, they just threw him back to the woods, like, and he died there. That's the
wow.
situation. So it would be more humanitarian, actually, to have shot him, because he wouldn't have suffered, at least. So this is the level.
And they're better than Alexander Lukashenko in what
They're
way?
somehow better than Alexander Lukashenko. Yeah, they're somehow better. But thanks for mentioning that, because actually this is the price. Because there's a moral aspect to that, but there's also a political aspect. And the political aspect is that Poland is right now paying its price for flexing its muscles and pretending to be an empire. That's what they're doing, because Lukashenko it's his revenge on Poland and on the European Union, on everything, for everything that they've done last year against him, trying to remove him from power, and this is just his revenge. I think it's cruel. I think it's absolutely inhumane. I think it's terrible, and I think he should be condemned for this. But hey, guys, like, how come you did not know it's going to happen? And if you pretended you were an empire, and you're so strong, and you're so somehow, um, able, right, politically, and you've got the backing of the Western powers, well, do something with this situation if you're so strong and so great. And the only thing that they can do is respond with violence. And then, of course, when you respond with violence, people are dying. And on top of everything, they tell me they are very strong and the response is very strong. And they had to actually enact emergency state along the border, like in a small stripe of land along the border, in order to let the military, to let the police, to let the border guards, to let all those who exercise the state violence to do whatever they like without journalists, because journalists have been kicked out of that zone. Which is, there are no journalistic reports. It's only sometimes when people, before they get caught by the military, by the police, or by the border police, that they can film something or help someone, or I don't know, throw some sleeping bags or blankets or something. This is the way that the situation is. I mean, there are some brave people trying to play games with the military, with the border police, and the police in order to help the people that those guys are killing effectively. Some of them, at least, right? So, I mean,
Wow.
we're in a situation, and this is done in the European Union, in the center of Europe, and on top of everything, it's done with the support of the European Union. You will see, Google it out. You will see Frontex and all the European bureaucrats are going to tell you, yes, we support the Polish, efforts to secure the border of the European Union, and so on and so forth. I'm not really, go to Google and see that for yourself. So you see, this
I
is something
really love
that should.
the euphemistic terms, they are securing the border, not killing people. Yeah, that's really
Yeah, 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 yeah,
clever.
yeah.
I mean, is this somehow costing this government down in terms of their
Absolutely.
reputation?
No, no, no. Like, yes and no. I mean, it's costing financially, and that's why I said yes, because I thought you were referring to this particular aspect. So yeah, financially, it's going to cost. It is costing already tons of money. I mean, I can't give you exact figures right now, but we're talking about huge mobilization, okay, of the army and of the police and of the border police, something absolutely unprecedented. And it does cost a lot of money. Plus, the enaction of the emergency state, and there are compensations to follow, plus of course the building of the wall, which is which is we know it from the US, right, from Trump, and all the quarrels about how much money have must be invested in this. So yeah, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of zlotys and euros that this entire operation is going to eat up. But this also speaks to the complete and utter lack of competence of those people. Because if you are a competent politician, then you're going to do something to reduce the costs, to make as little trouble for you and your country, or whatever, your budget, even if you like, and you're going to use it to create a leverage for yourself, but particularly with the people that you claim you are in conflict with, like the European Union. That would have been a perfect storm for Kaczynski and the other Law and Justice, the currently ruling party in Poland, right-wing Catholic fundamentalists. This would have been it could have been a perfect storm. They could have gathered those people, and then they could have blackmailed, even if you like, the European Union, the Western centers. They're saying that, look, do you want us to do the same that Lukashenko did to us? Because if you don't agree to certain things that we propose here, this is what we're going to do. We're going to, put them on trucks or trains or whatever, and we're going to just put them on your border, and then you're going to deal with them, from that point, from that moment on. And they wouldn't have to be forced, those migrants, to do that, because they really want to go
Yeah.
further in Poland. So yeah, and we're talking about lack of competence, completely stupid, nonsensical, violent, and morally impermissible reactions, and all this happening with the acceptance of the EU. Okay, so thumbs down, and it's very mildly put, thumbs down. It's something really horrendous. So yeah, that's one thing. And second thing, look, you said, Maria, you asked whether people are getting irritated by that, or somehow turned off, and whether the reputation of Law and Justice is suffering from that. Well, no. No. Why is that? Well, because the majority of people, right, particularly those who are interested in whatever's happening in the public sphere, they are receiving from the government the following message: we are securing the borders. There's a pressure created by Lukashenko, who is transporting migrants, illegal forcing them to illegally cross the border, uh, uh, or kind of explaining that this is a possibility to those people. And majority of the majority of the people, they do want to have the borders of the country they live in protected, right? And the majority of the people do understand that it's not okay to actually cross the border wherever you want, and because it's just not fair, in a sense that, like, they have to cross the borders of the countries where they go to in a concrete and specific place with concrete and specific documents. So how do you confront this? Well, you confront this politically. Exactly. I gave you a few solutions, political solutions, how it could have been handled. But unfortunately, no one wants to confront that politically, including the left. They want to confront that morally. And confronting the right wing morally is a very challenging endeavor, and I don't think it actually works, because it's the right wing, it's their culture, it's their identity, that everything they do is about morality and morals and rules of morality and so on and so forth, while we should be those that actually offer, okay, morality, fine, you can have your morality, but we want to offer some universal solutions that are going to work for everyone. And we should be able to offer a solution that is going to work for everyone in this particular situation. So, it was there
And the
was a
big help.
moment when we could have, as the left, okay, I mean, not really myself, because I don't really have much of influence, but those in the parliament, for example, they could have explained that, look, there is the board, definitely borders should be secure, borders should be whatever protected, borders should be patrolled and so on and so forth. But, instead of doing this, which is a bad political choice, which is also inhumane, where people are suffer and die, we could have gone we could have gone another way. We could have decided something else. Had there been any discussion, had there been any sort of, mm, possibility for other political factors to also take part in it and decide about the government's response, things would have been different. Obviously, they would have been different. But no, they went their own way. They went on a violent rampage against those people. And of course, because they have practiced that for the last, over 10 years, since Smolensk and since the disaster of the plane that crashed in Russia and killed the Polish president at the time, they have practiced this hysteric, this hysteric, sort of disbalancing the society emotionally and making it hysteric. Okay, so there is no way, in my opinion, at the moment, that this is going to end well. I think that the humanitarian crisis is going to happen, and finally, this is going to be decided by foreign to Poland factors. It's going to be decided by Belarus. It's going to be decided by Berlin, by I don't know, maybe Russia even, to some extent. But most certainly, Poland in the final aftermath is going to stay the country that invested money, that killed people, that, did all kinds of cruel things on the border. And this is what we're going to be left with: debts and deaths, right? But otherwise, this is not the way that you can really solve it. Because, okay, now we've got like 1,000, I don't know, a couple of hundred people, but soon we're going to have 1,000, 3,000, 4,000, maybe 10,000. Okay, because Lukashenko isn't stopping, and I'm sure he's just eating popcorn and drinking champagne, looking at it.
And
That is so sad.
just
That's
and
unbelievable. And I thank you so much for because here in Romania, of course, we are overwhelmed. As I told you, we have such a tragic situation, but we don't hear about it much. We don't hear about it.
Yeah, you don't hear about it because the West supports this, what Poland is doing right now, and because the West supports it, then you will not get, all kinds of, and especially that Poland is giving them all kinds of other things to be outraged about. Like, for example, and by the way, it's a segue to my next thumbs down, and this is thumbs down globally for everyone. I don't know who's worse in this situation, because you might have heard about it. There's been a lot of outrage about how Poland is leaving the EU. Have you heard about whole
Exactly.
exit?
About this one, we heard.
Complete and utter nonsense. Like, Kaczynski cannot get Poland out of the EU. Kaczynski's too small. No one's going to allow this to happen. Okay, even if he actually wanted this to happen, no one would allow this. First the Americans would knock on his door and would tell him, hey, don't get carried away, all right? That's what would happen. And he would have to listen because, I understand that he doesn't like Joe Biden and he preferred Donald Trump, but Joe Biden is there, and Joe Biden is trying to redevelop the friendly terms that U.S. has been on with the European Union. So absolutely no things like that would happen. And for the last 5 or 6 years, since Law and Justice took power, they kind of got us used to them listening to Americans only. Like if Americans say something, then obviously they're just going to go ahead and do that, regardless of whether they tell them that privately or officially, or whether some American bureaucrat says something about what Poland should do on a random press conference. Okay, so they just go ahead and do that. So that's one, and obviously everybody in the European Union knows that, and the people in Poland know that as well. I mean, not the people, not the audience maybe so much, but the politicians, they know that. So it's just a lot of hot air and nothing else. This is just, and it's very convenient for Ursula von der Leyen, and it's very useful for Kaczynski, because this emotional disbalancing can go on, and they can, and there can be more emotional venom, spitted into the public sphere. Everybody can be at each other's throats.
Isn't it mostly just isn't it mostly just gaslighting? So like when Viktor Orban or one of these, far right douchebags does their latest, like anti queer policy, the European Union gets to paint itself as this wonderful liberal left body of
exactly
stuff.
that.
But that's all smoke and mirrors, because when it gets to the nitty gritty, they're all.
When you get to the nitty gritty,
they're all NATO. They all want to prop up this. They all want to prop up neoliberalism.
Of course, but when you get to the nitty gritty, you will immediately see that this is all hot air or gaslighting, because it's all happening around a ruling by the Polish Constitutional Tribunal that the Polish Constitution is the most important legal act for the country, and for the politicians, for lawmakers, for the judicial apparatus, and so on and so forth. Now, how is this a surprise? I don't know, because constitutionalism didn't start yesterday. It's kind of like, I mean, the first Polish constitution was enacted in the 18th century, and everybody knows what constitution is about. You don't have to have a PhD in political science to know that. So obviously this is the case. And this kind of ruling by the Constitutional Tribunal has been made exactly this kind of, that the Polish constitution is the highest legal act for Poland. Has been done previously. Actually, it has been done for the first time 1 year after Poland joined the EU, because there were some misunderstandings regarding extradition, and actually they had to change the constitution because of that. And from 2005, we know, because the Polish the Constitutional Tribunal said explicitly that if there is a conflict between the European law, and I'm simplifying it right now, okay, so the European law and the Polish law, then this contradiction has to be resolved by either changing the Polish law, or by influencing the European factor to change their laws or interpret their laws differently, or by changing the constitution if this is necessary, or by leaving the EU. And these are the four logical concepts that you can have, right? And this ruling is nothing else than just, and it's not even a kind of ruling as a verdict. It's called in the Polish legal system an interpretational resolution. That's what it's called. So it's just an interpretation of obvious facts. And of course, it was done now because there's this ongoing conflict, right, between Warsaw and Brussels. So Kaczynski wanted to flex its muscles. Okay, so he flexed the muscles, and everybody, all thinking politicians, should have just waved their hands or shrugged their shoulders and go like, okay, so they interpreted something, like big deal. But no, of course, they're going to make all kinds of statements, like the foreign ministers of France and Netherlands and whatever, and there's going to be even more hot air. while in Poland, they are going to call for demonstrations. The government and the opposition, like they want to take us out of the EU, and all the EU, all those who are EU fans, they have to gather 100,000 people listening to Donald Tusk last Sunday on one of the main squares in Warsaw. And I listened to that speech. He said nothing. He just said, those people, they want to take us out of the EU. Wah! You know, this is the level of politics. And then there are some other people who support the government, or even some more right-wing organizations, political organizations, on a counter demonstration. I don't know, and they would go like, down with cultural Marxism or something like that. And this is the state of politics today. I mean, we're talking about a big Central European country, Poland, 40 million people, respected country. And this kind of thing, and how are you even going to make politics in this kind of situation? Like, people are totally, there's we definitely, it's a disaster of the political system here. I mean, we're somewhere beyond politics, beyond ideologies, beyond understanding of reality. We have departed from the Enlightenment, and we are somewhere in those areas where people exercise magical thinking, wishful thinking, weird interpretation, hallucinations that Poland is leaving the EU and stuff like that. So this is completely metaphysical, what's happening. It's got nothing to do with reality, nothing to do with material conditions, nothing to do with economy, nothing to do with politics, foreign policy, or anything like that. The only, in this entire circus, metaphysical circus, the only material things are people dying on the border and the prices rising drastically. Those are the two elements of reality, which are the direct product of law and justice's reign here in Poland.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, we went a bit over time. I think that's probably a good place to end it. So thank you all for joining us. We hope to join you again. Boyan, when are we going to do this again? Hopefully next month. But
next month at the end of November.
All right, and thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone for joining us on the barricades. Thank you, Boyan and Maria, for inviting me back on, and we hope to do this again soon. And as always, as Boyan would, as the great Edward R. Moore would say, good night and good luck, or as Boyan would say, stay safe and stay healthy, right?
Yeah, and keep fighting. And don't forget to go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/thebarricade, and help out to the extent that you feel you can afford. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.